invite now on the stage Kristian Ruby, Secretary General Eurelectric, for his keynote speech. Thank you, Kristian, for being here with us and sharing some thoughts. The floor is yours.
Good morning. Where's the applause? Come on. Right. I want to start by telling you a little story. Earlier this year, I went to Ukraine to see what life is like for our colleagues over there who literally fight day and night to keep on the lights in their country. It was a very humbling experience, I want to tell you. So I went to a power plant in the southwestern part of the country. They asked me not to tell where it was, and maybe for good reasons. Literally at the moment where we arrive on the plant, the airstrike alarm goes off, and we can see on our apps that it's MiG-35 fighters with Kinzhal missiles that have taken off from a base somewhere in Russia, possibly headed towards this plant. We rush towards the bomb shelter. On the way, we see this convoy of pickup trucks, roof-mounted air defense guns, soldiers inside, camouflage uniforms, stern faces, on the way to their positions. Just another day on the job in the power sector, ladies and gentlemen. So we sit in the bomb shelter with the rest of the staff until the alarm is called off, and we can go and tour the site with the plant manager, Vadim. And it was just beyond anything you can imagine. Across this big power plant, windows, walls blown out, replaced with plywood plates. Even in the director's office, you would think that that was a nice place. No, the windows were gone. There was just plywood there. Roof partly collapsed. In the turbine hall, the entire roof was gone. You could see directly up to the blue sky. There was a big hole where the generator had supposed to have been. There were several generation units. One completely melted away by a direct hit. And, you know, those folks going to work there every day, I just tell you, that's something else. So you come to work, giant hole where your generator is, and all you have to do is start moving rubbles off the floor, start welding again, trying to come up with all kinds of weird solutions to avoid the next attack from making the same kind of damage. So, okay, let's put a net over here where, you know, we can avoid the Iranian drones from coming in. Let's rebuild this wall in a way where the blast wave won't take it over again. That's what they deal with every day. And I just tell you, the persistence of those people, the courage is absolutely incredible. The plant manager told me that when there is a direct attack on the plant, the management, they don't go to the bomb shelter. They go to the control room because they want to provide moral support for the staff on duty, and they need to make sure that they're there to take operational decisions if needed. So that's what it's like to be an electricity engineer in Ukraine these days. And why am I telling you this story? I think there's three reasons. First of all, it's important to acknowledge that courage and take inspiration from it. Secondly, it is a story that shows just how much and fundamentally the world has changed in the last few years. If I told you this story in 2021, you would have thought it was from some movie, and it would have been because there was no war in 2021. We had other problems, but we didn't have direct attempts, sustained attempts at destroying the infrastructure that's powering our society. This is something we've been dealing with in the last 3 years, on top of the energy transition, on top of all the other stuff we do. So the world is changing fundamentally. The rule of law is under attack. The international rules-based order is fragmenting. Old alliances falling like dominoes. Democracy is under attack. And we're still grappling with climate change. It's just to say the challenge landscape is becoming quite dramatic and difficult to deal with, and is something that we all need to bear in mind. And the third reason is that as we're moving into a much more electric future, we, if anyone, need to be on top of these challenges. Our vector is becoming the most central source of energy in the decarbonized society, and our sector is the one that is being directly attacked. In Ukraine, it is, if not every day, every third day. There's a recent study that said that the Russians had committed, I was going to say, more than 750 attacks on civil infrastructure in the last 3 years. 750 attacks, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not implying that that's going to be the reality in Europe. We don't expect Russian tanks in Bucharest or anywhere else anytime soon. But I am saying that the new reality is one where we need to deal with direct physical sabotage on the grids. Maybe you saw what happened in Cannes. All of a sudden, during the film festival, several transformers were subject to arson attacks. In my country, Denmark, there are cyber attacks on the water utilities. Russian groups are forcing themselves into the system, wreaking havoc. So we do have a very, very different security situation compared to just a few years ago, one that we need to take seriously because our source of energy is the one that's going to be central for society. Now, that sounds very serious and stern, and in fact it is. But I think it's also important to say that there's a lot of opportunity on the horizon. Let's hope that this war eventually sort of, that we find peace, and there's a big investment opportunity, frankly, ahead of us in Ukraine. They've learned a lot from this war. They've learned that decentral energy facilities are some that you can really use, and they're eager to attract companies, including from Romania, for this. What we've also learned from this is that standing together in Europe is going to be central in a world where we can't rely on our allies in the same way that we have been doing previously. And all the while, climate change is not going anywhere, not anytime soon at least. That means we need to push forward with electrification, with decarbonization of our system. And I just want to share a perspective. I don't come here often. I come here every 2 years, 3 years. And every time I come here, I'm really positively surprised to see how the Romanian society is evolving and just how much positive is happening, especially in the energy sector. We had the minister at our summit last week. I think he said that Romania has received some 14 billion euros of subsidies from the EU in grants or subsidy programs, one way or the other. And I think it shows. Apart from the fact that society is evolving very positively here, in my view, at least materially, it shows in the energy sector. There's a profound transformation ongoing, which is positive, and there is a lot of opportunity to reap more from these programs that are coming from the EU. The focus in the EU these days is on industrial electrification. There's a lot of legislation in place for buildings. There's a lot of legislation in place for transport. Now we're zooming in on how to decarbonize industries with the help of electricity. As it were, we can actually decarbonize around 60% of all industrial processes with electricity with existing technology. And if we project technology trends going forward, that figure could rise up to 90% by 2035. That's massive. What it also means is that there's a lot of opportunity on the ground today, and there's a lot of political will from the EU to do stuff about it. You may have seen the Clean Industrial Deal has a so-called decarbonization bank with 100 billion euros of funds for such projects. So this is a business opportunity that ties right into our efforts to decarbonize society and to improve competitiveness. What are the challenges? Well, there are plenty of challenges, and one of them is to make sure that we have a balance between, on the one hand, competitively priced energy, electricity, and on the other hand, a profitable business case for our sector. That sounds kind of easy. It's not. We need to find out how we can make the supply of electricity sufficiently stable and give long-term visibility to companies that want to buy electricity. And we need to make it affordable and more attractive than it is today. So de-risking of long-term contracts is something we're looking deeply into. Of course, helping by essentially subsidizing the capex of such a transformation is also a good thing. It's just to say, here's a new avenue for business, a new avenue for projects to take off. I'll close by saying just a few things about the electricity system, because whereas we have a lot of good stuff going on in the electricity sector, decarbonization is happening fast. Renewables are entering the space very fast. We haven't seen the rest of the system evolve at the same pace. We're not seeing the customers sufficiently engaged. 80% of customers are not actively participating in the energy transformation. We're not seeing flexibility investments evolve sufficiently fast, and we're not seeing infrastructure investments happen sufficiently fast. We need to double investments in distribution grids this year in order to get to the right level. And we need to see much more investment flow into flexible generation, also flexible demand. And this is something that we need more focus on from the regulator side, from the political side, because frankly, there are investment conundrums. We need to have the necessary incentives to invest in the flexible generation, and we need better regulation for the grids to provide and stimulate the appetite for those investments. As it were right now, the system development is slightly out of sync. We're pushing massively ahead with renewables, but we're not seeing the rest of the system catch up at the same pace. So this needs to be fixed, because as it were, the world is changing. We're relying more and more on electricity, and this is only going to be more let's say, clear going forward. I'll leave it at that, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, and look forward. I hope you'll have a good conference. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Kristian, for